On a scale of 1 to 10, how insecure are you? I'll start. My insecurity level is a very low 17,898. And this is probably why South Park decided to viciously attack all of these insecurities in a season 16 episode that was surprisingly titled Insecurity. I didn't like this episode because it kind of felt like a personal attack to me, but I can't deny that it's pure genius. South Park goes over what causes insecurities, shows us how dangerous they can be, and then gives us pointers on how to deal with our own insecurities.
Well, why you boring me? I'm right.
So, according to South Park, what causes insecurities? The short answer is mistakes and overreactions. For a more detailed explanation, let's look at the episode. Insecurity opens up with Kyle's parents engaging in a little role play. Gerald is a man of culture, so that's all the foreplay he needs. He takes his wife to bed and, well, you can guess the rest. But first, they make a big mistake.
Yeah? You like your package, ma'am?
Did you spot the mistake? They forgot to lock the door, and Ike sees them. This one mistake triggers the insecurities of a whole town, drives the whole town mad, makes one company a lot of money, and costs an innocent man his life in the process. Let's get into the how. Ike is broken by what he sees. He can't even speak. He just cries and draws a picture for Kyle. The cycle of mistakes just continues over here. Ike never saw his father's face, so he assumes his mother is having an affair with the UPS man.
Ike, are you sure about this? Yes, I saw them, Kyle,
Kyle, in turn, makes another mistake. He discusses family business with his friends. That would almost be forgivable if Randy wasn't eavesdropping through the door.
My mom's having with the UPS man.
Randy runs off to tell every man in South Park about it, and Cartman, well, Cartman is Cartman.
What kind of sane, normal person would want to have sex with Kyle's mom?
This attitude is shared by Butter's dad.
I mean, somebody who would have sex with Kyle's mom would have sex with just about anything.
Cartman's conspiratorial thinking takes him off the deep end. Cartman is not the only one overreacting. The insecurities of the grown-ups in South Park go into overdrive as well.
If my wife was having sex with the UPS man, I'd want you guys to tell me. How do you know she's not?
And that is the line that triggers 1,000 insecurities. People hear one moderately bad thing and just blow it out of proportion. Randy almost talks some sense into his friends.
Oh, come on, he can't be trying that with all our wives.
But the old mechanic just stirs up their insecurities all over again. He tells the men a story about how back in his day, the milkman cuckolded him and his neighbors. The old mechanic here is a metaphor for insecurities. Insecurities have to justify themselves because if they don't, there's a very real risk of you discovering that insecurities are stupid. And that is absolutely unacceptable. So the old mechanic convinces the men that the UPS man is banging their wives. But why do the men believe any of this without any evidence? The answer comes from cognitive bias called the Baader-Meinhof problem. The Baader-Meinhof problem is also called the frequency illusion. This problem has two parts: selective attention and cognitive bias. Once you learn some new information, you start seeing it everywhere. If you buy a new car, for example, you start noticing that car everywhere. You might start thinking that everyone is buying the same car as you, but that's really not the case. Those cars were always around. You're only noticing them because you're actually looking. This is selective attention. You see whatever you want to see. As for confirmation bias, it's just the cherry-picking problem. Once you believe something, probably because of selective attention, you start looking for evidence to confirm what you already believe. Horoscopes are the perfect example of confirmation bias. They often use vague statements like, "You will have a stressful day at work. You will meet a cute stranger. You will breathe today." People read that, and when all of those things happen, they convince themselves that the horoscope is correct, conveniently forgetting that those things happen almost every day. They also forget all the 300 other things that happen over the course of the day, which the horoscope didn't predict. They just cherry-pick the 2 or 3 things that the horoscope got right and ignore everything else. Even if you don't believe in horoscopes or conspiracy theories, I'm willing to bet that you have experienced the Baader-Meinhof problem at least once. It happened to me a couple of months back. I went out wearing a shirt that had a small tear in the armpit. I went out in the morning, but I didn't even notice the tear until around midday. I was washing my hands and I saw the tear in the mirror. I had been just fine until that moment. But the minute I noticed the tear, the rest of that day was ruined. Every time people looked at me, I assumed they were judging me for having a torn shirt. And then I began judging. I noticed that other people's clothes weren't that perfect. Some had weird stains in weird places, others didn't fit properly, and others were even a little too faded from too many washes. Shoes were dusty, some soles were worn out, and some guy had phones making weird bulges in his front pockets. And others had wallets making even weirder bulges around their butts. If I looked hard enough at anybody, I was guaranteed to find something. But the only reason I noticed all these fashion mistakes was because I was actively looking for them. I never actually cared about what other people's clothes were before or since. But because I was insecure about my own slightly torn shirt, I projected that insecurity outwards. It didn't make me feel any better, but it did convince me that everyone else's clothes were just as bad as mine, if not worse. That is the Baader-Meinhof problem, and South Park is about to have a terrible case of it. We see this more acutely with Randy. He decides to stay home. We finally meet the scary UPS man.
Chad, is it? Thad.
As you can see, Randy takes everything he hears as evidence that the UPS man is banging his wife.
You, having a busy day?
Oh, just trying to get to everyone.
Randy delivers the packages to Sharon.
Ooh, stuff from Amazon?
Yeah, what are they?
To be honest, I can't remember.
Randy treats that as more evidence of Sharon cheating.
You just ordered stuff off of Amazon and you can't remember what?
When Randy takes Stan's book to his room, he finds the picture Ike drew for Kyle. Randy was eavesdropping from outside the door when Kyle was telling Stan and Cartman the story. But Randy doesn't think about that. He just assumes that his wife is banging the UPS man. Insecurities are kind of weird like that. Everything you see and hear can be twisted to confirm the insecurity. But how bad is insecurity really? I mean, what's the worst it can do? We see the terrible psychological consequences of insecurity mostly through Cartman. He hires a security company to wire his house because he has convinced himself that the UPS man would break in and force himself on his mother. Where did he get this idea? This is South Park roasting ADT. It's unhinged fear-mongering and the curious casting choices of the advertising industry all in one. But you remember what we said about the Baader-Meinhof problem. Once people start believing something, they see it everywhere and they ignore everything that doesn't fit their preconceived notions.
Polarized by someone the victim knows.
Cartman's mind jumps straight to...
Oh my god, I knew it! Kyle is always taking my stuff!
The whole home security system is expensive, but...
How much is feeling secure in your own home worth?
For Cartman, no price is too high for security. But does it make him feel any safer? He keeps tripping the alarm and even hires a burglar to break into his house just to test the security company's protocols. The message here is quite obvious. Focusing on insecurities only makes them worse. No amount of external copes can solve what is essentially an internal problem. So, is there a better solution to insecurities? The other men think there is.
How did you get rid of the milkman?
The old mechanic is the one who spiked the men's insecurities in the first place. He's the one who convinced them that the UPS man was doing the deed with their wives. Could he have a solution? The men believe he does, but he doesn't want to share. The men insist that the old mechanic tell them how they got rid of the milkman banging their wives. While the milkman was distracted by the blonde, the old mechanic and his buddies jumped him. Yeah, that took a dark turn. The men of South Park take the old mechanic's advice.
Well, hello there, Mr. UPS man.
What are you?
You should have left our wives alone.
They beat the living daylights out of him.
Ah!
Does it work? Well, they just beat up an innocent man, so you know it doesn't. The problem here is not the UPS man. He did nothing wrong. The problem lies with the men and their insecurities. They have committed the classic mistake of misidentifying the source of the problem. While this doesn't help the men, it helps somebody else. The men are spotted beating up the UPS man and the whole town is scared.
I know you're all worried about your family's security. Bane has not been caught.
The police say there is nothing more they can do to protect the citizens. But there is someone who can.
Hello, folks. We're more than happy to get you home safe and secure.
And then there is one more thing. According to the security company, wiring up the home isn't good enough.
A security system that is actually inside you. It's called Insecurity.
A system that monitors their fear levels and triggers an alarm. And it's only $99. Once you buy it, they'll probably convert it into a subscription. Here, South Park is attacking all the corporations that spike people's insecurities and then make truckloads of money selling the solution. Cosmetic companies, fashion brands, and anybody who sells anything positioned as luxury. All these industries rely on triggering people's insecurities and inadequacies. Then they tell you that buying their product will make you cool. I'm talking about you, Axe Body Spray. We're the girls your ads promised me. So, how do you actually deal with insecurity? Let's follow the men as they take a second stab at solving their insecurities. Once the men of South Park had beaten up the UPS man to within an inch of his life, they go to the bar and reflect on their lives now that Thad is gone.
He's back! What?
Okay, he's not gone. Jimbo found Ike's drawing and stuff is about to get diabolical. The men's insecurities, embodied here by the old mechanic, rise again.
Didn't kill him, did ya?
The men explain that they thought they had to scare the UPS man. So the men decide to get rid of the UPS man for good. They start following him around. Meanwhile, Kyle tries to confront his mom and expose the affair. The UPS man is defending himself against Kyle's implied accusations when the men who have been following him around all this time blow up his car. They follow him inside, and when he sees Kyle rushing him and demanding he comes down, poor Thad jumps screaming out of the window. That's when police investigating the death find a UPS uniform in the Broflovski closet.
Sir, we found this in the closet upstairs.
And everyone realizes the truth. Gerald explains role-playing to his son. He really struck a nerve with that one. An innocent man is dead, and the men realize that they caused his death with their insecurities. Do they feel even bad about it? No. Do their insecurities disappear? Also no. Insecurities are just not logical, and they never die as long as you're looking somewhere external for a solution. They just transfer to something else. So logically, the men attack the security man. The episode wraps here, so what's the lesson again? Well, my friends, the lesson here is obvious. South Park thinks all insecurities are stupid, which is not entirely wrong considering that the men here were all being driven mad by a made-up problem. And in real life, it's mostly the same. A lot of our insecurities are indeed stupid. They tend to be caused by either low self-esteem or a desire for approval by others. When we misidentify the source of our insecurities, or just focus on stupid insecurities, we end up like South Park characters with their insecurity alarms. Alarms go off when Cartman hears that the Jewish population is growing, and go off when a saleswoman asks him if his dad likes cologne. When Randy sees that the Broflovski house is better than his, it triggers his insecurity alarm. The alarm goes off when Token's dad says,
Guess this guy's a lot tougher than we thought. Must be why our wives want him so bad.
When Jimbo gets told he doesn't even have a wife, his insecurity alarm goes off. And when the men of South Park hear that Gerald can do the deed with his wife without using a pill to jumpstart his equipment, all of their alarms go off. That's what happens when you focus on silly and unjustified insecurities. The solution is to simply stop caring. If we cure ourselves of that need for approval, a lot of our insecurities disappear. A perfect example is how dads dress. When we're young, we're obsessed with looking fashionable. And when you look at dads and grandpas, they just wear whatever they want. They don't care if anybody thinks their outfit's not cool. But what about real insecurities? While a lot of our insecurities are silly and made up, justified insecurities do exist. What can you do about them? The same thing that therapy, philosophy, and religion have been teaching us for 10,000 years or so. Change what you can and accept what you cannot. If you are insecure about your torn shirt, you can do something about it. But if your insecurity comes from something you can't change, like your height or my balding head, focusing on it will only make you miserable.